Hey, it is your buddy, Peace and Harmony with you here today. Much love going out to all the beautiful, empowered harmonizers. Hope you all had a wonderful holiday this spring. And then before we get started on today's topic, I just want to give a huge shout out to those of you who have recently made donations to the channel, especially here around this holiday weekend. Your gifts, your input, your sharing of your specifics has uplifted me and has helped me to burn my passion even stronger, because it lets me know that this content is meaningful, it's hitting home, it's giving you some guidance and validation. And really that is what it's all about. It's really viewers like you who respond and contribute and write comments and support each other that make it all worthwhile for me. I mean, I do this out of the goodness of my heart, but to have that interaction and communication really helps to solidify the foundation on the channel. So thank you so much for your contributions. And we're going to once again zoom in and get started on really a great viewer question, which I think pertains to a lot of the viewership. And that is, how do I turn an energy shift back to me? After you've been, as well as I have a lot of questions coming in regarding to, you know, this narcissistic parenting, psychopathic parenting, or really the extremes when you're working in very close, proximity to these individuals, and they've really made a profound energy impairment where you have now, their relationship has become a burden to you. It has become such a negative impact that it is something you have to deal with daily. It's something which is, constantly on your mind, and you feel a perpetual loop or needing to handle it on a day in and day out basis. In other words, you feel it's beginning to define you. You feel like it's beginning to define not only how you feel, think, behave, but how you chart a course for your future and really your identity. And realize that your identity, your character, your personality, of course, is made up from your genetics, whether you're kind, whether you're cruel, whether you have a easygoing temperament, whether you're high energy, type A, type B. But also realize that a great deal, if not 50% or greater, is due to the environment. So not only nature, not only what God gave you, but really what is then increased or elevated or brought forth really has to do a lot with the environment that you are around. So the chart of your course is the chart of the course of your what you achieve, what you manifest, what you bring, what you experience, what you have, the career that you choose, the interest that you actually get up and pursue, how good you allow yourself to feel, the contentment, the bliss, the passion, the I know myself, really is determined oftentimes by your environment, as well as the people in your environment and who you surround yourself with. So it can have a dramatic energy influence. Energy meaning how you feel about yourself, and your identity really is a series of feelings and thoughts that perpetuate over time, over months, over weeks, over months, over years, which rehearsed or repeated or rememorized over time, because our thoughts, we tend to have, 70 to 90,000 thoughts a day, and oftentimes it's thought to be up to 90% or greater, 95% are the exact same thoughts, feelings, and behaviors that we had the day previously. So you tend to re-memorize or re-solidify these same feelings that are set forth or promulgated, stimulated from the environment. And so, like in the work of Dr. Joe Dispenza, wonderful, wonderful healer, I would highly recommend you get his book, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, looking at his videos, his meditations. But he really looks at the topic of neuroplasticity and how the neural networks, which mean the axon, the dendrites, the neurons, which are the cells that create your brain in your neurology. So, of course, we have different cells, like we have epidermis cells for our skin. We have, ocular, we have special, cells for our eyes. We have different, cells that make up our liver, our lungs, our heart. These are all, and we have, neurons, axons and dendrites, as well as synapses within our brain. And really the brain and that whole spinal column, your central nervous system is the holiest of holies. So meaning it directs you. It directs your behavior. It's how you're wired. It's really part of your energy. And then whether that has been set up and then rehearsed again and again in fight or flight, which means if you're constantly around a challenger, if you're constantly around someone who's emotionally manipulative, if you're constantly around someone who will not listen to you, not give you the floor, not validate what you're saying, not have curiosity about you, not check up how you're doing, or, and very much to the contrary or to the opposite, minimize you, play down your talents, play down your appearance, play down your interests, play down your achievements, play down your day-to-day life. It's going to minimize you. And it's very much like the poster that my dentist used to have on his ceiling. So while you're getting your teeth cleaned, you would see this poster and it would say, ignore your teeth and they'll go away. So it's kind of like people feel their energy goes away when they're around people who ignore them. That is neurology. I mean, that is, also that's your neuroplasticity. So those people who are, studies have been shown that when you are criticized or emotionally manipulated, the body receives that just like a physical attack. In other words, the same limbic system gets aroused. That fight or flight, freeze or fawn, like Pete Walker in his book, he talks about the different stages and types of fight or flight that you are. And I would highly recommend his book as well. Pete Walker, Complex PTSD, from Surviving to Thriving, is a must read, really, for anyone who has encountered this to an intense degree that you have felt that your life has been changed. Your life has been altered. You have felt that this has made a significant impairment in your life. I would highly recommend looking at his work and learning how the interplay exists within you. Do you tend to freeze? Do you tend to fawn and be a pushover? Do you tend to want to avoid and run away? You can see these tendencies which have been created, but they are created because, in the beginning, you're set up in that when you're around these types of individuals who are constantly challenging, i.e., challenging you, insinuating that they know more than you, and they'll kind of rub it in your face. They'll make fun of you. They'll mimic or make fun of how you say things. I mean, it's just very childish, like a viewer has so aptly stated, that they are children, and realize that this tendency to be emotionally manipulative comes from an insecurity. We really need to hammer this in. We really need to understand that it's not us or the target, the supply, that is at fault. It is a mechanism of someone who is pathologically personality disordered, narcissistic, covert narcissistic, or when we get into the antisocials, the antisocial personality disorders, the psychopathy, the really, intense, brutal end of the spectrum where they're very cruel and callous and don't have any feelings. So they must resort to these emotionally manipulative tactics. And they do make a negative imprint on people. There is no denying the lifelong ramifications that it has. So I take it very seriously. I take it very passionately, because to me, it states that there are hundreds and thousands, if not hundreds of thousands and millions of people who are suffering in the silent sufferers and who have had their lives adulterated, their energy changed because of emotionally manipulative individual. They don't go on to pursue their jobs. They don't go on to pursue their interests. They don't know their life purpose. They feel wounded. They feel social anxiety. They feel the depression. The depression is the lower energy. The anxiety is the too high energy. They can't control it. They can't get it balanced. And oftentimes it's at the invisible hand of the emotional manipulator, which has caused this proliferation of pain and suffering and struggle and confusion and feeling lost, feeling depersonalized, not feeling whole, not feeling strong, going into their life, their junior high life, their elementary school life, their junior high, high school, college, their degrees, whatever life pursuits that they follow or don't even follow, because they don't feel the sense of entitlement to live their life. Their energy has been affected. And as we stay, as Dr. Joe Dispenza states, that your identity is nothing but a pattern of thoughts, feelings, and behaviors which have been rehearsed and repeated and rememorized over time. So weeks, months, years, then you get the identity of, I am a low achiever. I am a victim. I am an alcoholic. I am a drug abuser. I am miserable. I am weak. I am meek. I don't have what it takes. So these are all the definitive moments which your identity, which is subject to change. So that's the good news. Like in Pete Walker's book, Complex PTSD, he discusses how these reactions of feeling guilty, of feeling lost, of being depersonalized, dehumanized, the gaslighting, the brainwashing, these are learned emotional states. These are learned identity states. These are learned energy states. Okay, so they are learned. They are taught and introduced to you from the environment. And the word education, educare, comes from the Latin to bring out. So really, when we talk about being educated, we have to bring out the strength that is uniquely and individually originally yours. It's not about hammering in to meet the standards of low achievement to fit another. In other words, the constant interplay of your energy with this person's. If it's constantly bringing you down, pushing you down, making you smaller to the point, you can't even put yourself in a small enough corner because this person wants you to be so minimized. You have to be so silent that you might as well, go into the social gathering with duct tape on your mouth because they don't want to hear from you. Even though you have great things going on with your life, they will never see it in you because they don't want to see it in you, because that would be a challenge to them. It would be challenging their insecurity to see you growing, to see you speaking in the way, to be calling out their abuse. So they're going to continue the abuse, and they're going to try to keep it, put the sand on the hole, they're going to try to, plow it over so that you will forget the brainwashing, that's whatever the excuse is, I smacked you, that's what we did. I yelled and criticized you, and I abused you, and I scapegoat you. That's what you deserve. You don't need to tolerate that. You are not being too insensitive by being sensitive to this. So it is your energy that is affected. And so that's why it's perpetuated, is because it's created kind of an identity for you at that point, when it's gotten that profound, when it's gotten that deep, when it's gotten that consistent, when it's gotten that chronic, when it's so pervasive, and then it becomes running through you. It is your neurology, it is your central nervous system, feeding into the sympathetic nervous system, which is activated in fight or flight. It's that very old reptilian, brainstem and limbic brain, which is activated. But you do have power, metacognition, and cognitive reframing to adjust that. So I encourage you to understand that, your energy, your lower energy states have been learned. You have learned to feel small. You have, gone into this to, protect yourself, and that this is, an adaptive mechanism. So then what's kind of like running your life is defense mechanisms. And as a good colleague once said, if you're constantly coping in life, something is not right. Something is awry. Something is amiss. And so, in other words, if you're constantly cope, I have to cope with this, then it's a sign that you are using too many defense mechanisms, that they are employed. In other words, you are trying to protect yourself in high gear, high throttle. So if you're in that stressed out mode, you know, and then it's to understand, society doesn't tell you this, that's why we have this channel, but life is not meant to be lived under that degree of stress, struggle, unhappiness, unfulfillment. People, when they're chronically around these people, they feel that their life is always relegated, you know, to the basement. They're, you know, bottomed out emotionally, and they feel that that's all it's ever going to be. They're, you know, or when they're around this person, they always have to show them up. They always have to, you know, the old look at me. They have to be constantly the center of attention. When you look at some of the really greatest people, you know, they are humble. They, you know, they have a humbleness. They want to hear from others. They are curious of others. They are listening. I mean, what would, you know, to me, it would be a very bleak and lonesome life if all you had to do is talk about yourself. I mean, to me, I'm, you know, very much flip the opposite. I'm very much interested in people, interested in their experiences, especially emotionally. How can we pull you up? How can we, you know, initiate educare? How can we educate you to bring out that strength and talent, which is unique, original, yours? You know, that's your, what I call your internal real estate. That is your, what makes you unique, what you enjoy, what you love, what you're good at. It's not what the narcissist, the psychopath, and, you know, their heavy-handedness that they're trying to make you into something conditionally. That is not how you should evaluate yourself. You need to throw back those shackles, that energy which has been like a heavy hand, like, you know, an emotional handcuff, an emotional brace, an emotional box they're trying to put you in. You know, you do not bloom in that shape. But oftentimes people, if they are in family systems or employment systems where that is the case, then they're only blooming according to the small, inferior, meek, victimized minority shape that they're trying to crunch them into. So, I mean, how many of you have felt you have had to make yourself smaller in life because of this person? I mean, if it is something that you, if you ask yourself, if you can testify to that,